2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hotel of Kayfabe. This is the House of Kayfabe in a condensed version right here in Winston-Salem at the Marriott at Wrestlecade, day one. Happy to be sitting down with our residents, our fellow residents here in the Hotel of Kayfabe. The other Steve Barker, the one and only Matt Mullins. And we're here to recap day one of Wrestlecade. We're going to give you some quick updates throughout the weekend, and then we're going to tape tons of content that we hope to share with you throughout the year. So be sure to like and subscribe here on YouTube and look for more stuff on your favorite podcast app. Steve, today, what a day. We rolled down the highway together, brother.
Boy, we were late.
In a couple of days ago, we learned we were doing an instant podcast with a couple of, the legend and the future legend. Ricky Morton, Rock and Roll Ricky Morton and Kerry Morton were there. And we came in hot to Winston-Salem.
Very hot. We found out that there were far more people at this podcast than we thought, because this thing got announced like 4 days.
That's right.
And Brian, of course, calls and says he wants the best indie announcer on the scene there. And as soon as he said that, I started speeding, knowing that I have Stephen P. New on speed dial. So if I get a ticket on the way, he could probably get me out of it. So we come in sliding sideways, Jim Carrey style, and we're throwing Adam out because he's got to go, and Brian wants to announce who's someone you've announced on many occasions, Ricky Morton.
That's right.
And Kerry Morton. And so I park the car and come in, and Brian's still waiting on the podcast because Stephen P. New didn't show up because apparently someone slipped on pee-pee at the Costco and he had to sue someone today. And so I had to come in, and Brian's like, hey, you're going to, literally 3.5 hour drive, get out of the car. And Brian's like, hey, we're going to go interview one of your heroes from your childhood.
Step right up.
With Ricky Morton and Kerry Morton. And that's how our day started. So we didn't even get to come in and say, hey, we're in Wrestlecade. I didn't even give Matt a hug before I was able to go and host this podcast.
Brian Resner literally didn't even say hi. He was like, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Let's go.
And thankfully, Matt was there to give me a piggyback ride right to the stage. Steve shoved me out of the Honda. Matt gave me the piggyback ride.
And want you to overexert yourself.
That's right.
I want you to have all your energy.
I was totally rested, able to say, welcome, Brian Resner. And then it was like, whew, all right. And then I got to actually soak it in. And it's wonderful to see the crowd together,
We had great friends and family there.
Already, yeah. Good to see friends and family.
Kayfabe shirts in the crowd.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was wonderful. We taped with Ricky Morton. You had some great questions for Ricky and for Kerry, who, Kerry's the future legend, just won the NWA Junior Heavyweight title a few days ago.
Which was sitting right there on the stage.
So cool to see that there.
And man, I fucking swore that Ricky had wore it, but I had won it back in the day, before Rock and Roll Express even. But it was one of those things where I can't Google it. We're on fucking stage. There's 100 people looking at me, and I just had to let it go. But I'm almost for certain, if you're in the comments section, let me know.
We'll have to check
I'm almost for certain that Ricky Morton was a junior heavyweight champion.
We'll do an update. Yeah, we'll do an
update.
We'll do an update. I think that's why it makes so much great sense to have Kerry in the NWA regardless, and we heard a lot about the profession of the wrestling business today.
Yes, sir.
From Ricky Morton.
Ricky goes off on tangents pretty easy, but it was very captivating still.
Entertaining, man.
A great goat story. He was asked about he was asked about Ric Flair, and then somehow told a story about a goat.
Yeah, I don't think he meant greatest of all time either. It was literally about a goat.
A goat falling down a well.
And man, it was so good, and that's one of the funnest parts about Wrestlecade is the fans. We're all just a ton of great marks, and I use that term endearingly. We're all just here to mark out and do mark stuff together.
Mark nerds
marking out, exactly. Trademark House of Kayfabe. And they had a great respect for Ricky and Robert, and then also we were able to bring out the star of Smoky Mountain Wrestling and a new documentary being directed by the one and only Brian Logan, who has some connections to West Virginia, and they brought the Dirty White Boy up on stage, man, and that was such a big deal.
Adam Harris and Brian Resner and Matt Mullins too, big Smoky Mountain marks.
Absolutely.
So Adam took over the stage, and that's going to be a short one. So all these podcasts we're talking about are going to be on our channel over the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to fill up now until the end of the year with the Wrestlecade content we're going to make up here. And we would like to thank Tracy Myers for opening his doors for us.
Absolutely.
We are very appreciative. Yeah. We'd like to thank Stephen P. New for being
so
our Tony Khan. So
that's right. I mean, that's the man whose coattails we're all riding.
So Adam got to ask the Dirty White Boy some great questions. You're going to see that podcast.
Yeah,
and then Matt Mullins, the fucking main event, which I know you were hugely excited for because you are one of the two big ECW marks here in the Hotel of Kayfabe.
Brian Resner and I knew each other in junior high, and we totally were bringing bootleg VHS. I found out, I can remember my parents had a scanned DirecTV card where you get all the illegal, you're not paying for it. And I would tape, because ECW came on at like 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. The next day I would have the tape for Resner, and he'd have me some tape, and we'd tape trade. And so I was stoked that we got Shane Douglas there to do it. And, Shane is just one of those people that could just start talking, and it's captivating, and he tells those stories, and you really didn't even need Resner to ask the question because he could just go, and
it only takes a little bit to get him going, and yet he makes tons of great points. We learned a lot about Shane Douglas today, and that's another thing, great respect for him. We're lucky in our area. We get to see Shane kind of regularly up in West Virginia because he lives so nearby. He's on a lot of cards with Appalachian Championship Wrestling. But around here, they don't get to see Shane Douglas as often, and even a couple of the stories had heard before, you still love to hear them said, from the goat, straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, And Shane, what an influential person. You're going to get to hear him talk about denouncing the NWA title at that time and what all went on in leading up to that.
That's a big story.
Which was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot going on. And not even, I think most of us think we know, and we don't even have any idea. And then his story about, of course, becoming Dean Douglas. It's all in there, so be sure to like and subscribe on the House of Kayfabe. And thank you guys for watching. I think we should transition a little bit into one of the other parts of the Hotel of Kayfabe. As you can see behind us, we're stoked about some of the collectibles that we're hoping to dig up and chop through in the next few days. You saw our collectibles video from last year at Wrestlecade. Hope we can do something like that again. Matt, you already got something pretty cool signed, and you brought some other cool stuff to get signed.
So part of my shtick as a musician, as a shoot musician, is that I have a megaphone that I use a lot to do my hillbilly preacher.
Matt Mullins and the Bring Downs.
And, check them out. Thank you. And I was thinking, since the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, I'm here, baby. I'm here with the Nasty Boys, baby. We're gonna take it to the house now. I thought I would get Jimmy the Mouth of the South to sign it. And he actually drew these hearts, and I'm super stoked about it.
Let me hold it up a little closer.
How great did he look? He looks like he can still go.
He looks like he's still a member of the Gentrys. It's just that we're
ageless. He's so fucking ageless.
Yeah, that's awesome, right?
He drew the hearts.
Yeah, drew the hearts on there and everything. Love it.
Hall of Famer, man.
Hall of Fame.
True, we're tried and true. And that's another one, man, we take for granted. Jimmy Hart.
And Adam, you got...
Yep, I managed to snag the merch table exclusive, Major Wrestling Figure Podcast exclusive Bindom. Saw Brian Myers setting up the table. And the earlier meet and greet room is much smaller. A little packed in there. It felt like, I grew up on a farm. I know what packed cattle look like. That's what it felt like.
It did.
I've been in those situations with some farm animals before, trying to get them. Here we go. I got the Brian Myers signature on there. But bumping into people on the way out, I kind of smudged it a little bit. So kind of like an amateur.
That's the merch table
it looks
exclusive.
It looks like DX.
Now it looks cool. Yeah, I think it has kind of a cool smear to it. It's got a story behind it, which is the coolest part about collecting anyway.
And that's the merch table exclusive.
That's right, the merch table exclusive. This is only available at as Colt used to say, merch.table. When you roll up to meet the guys, which I love. I think that's a great thing that Major Figure guys did, because with the pre-ordering and all that's open to everybody, but yet it's cool to give those people who come out to the shows, who get to come and meet you and meet and greet and do the merch table thing. So I was stoked. I got to pick this up on day one. This was one of the things I was definitely like, I hope I get to pick this up at Wrestlecade. And snuck in right at the right time and was able to grab that today. So I'm thrilled about that today.
Awesome.
And this year, which was different from last year, is there wasn't really much going on in the way of signing on Friday night. I think this thing has expanded and gotten so big that they had to have at least one of the smaller rooms open today. And we saw Marcus Bagwell, Buff Bagwell. We saw Papa Shango. He was in full gimmick.
Ron Simmons.
Ron Simmons, who's probably the most impressive human being that you can stand beside. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And of course, we had Francine, who's actually at our table. And if you're watching this and you're here at Wrestlecade, first, good on you fucking mark.
Nice.
And please come see us tomorrow at our table. And our table is going to have Claudio Castagnoli. It is going to have Aubrey Edwards. Me and Matt have a little bit of a side bet with Brian Resner, our fearless leader, on that Aubrey Edwards is going to have one of the longest lines at this fucking thing.
Very popular.
If you've been to an AEW show, she gets pops like anybody in the whole promotion. We've got, of course, one of my personal best friends, Francine, is going to be there tomorrow. Tell us about your boys, Matt Mullins. Who are going to be your boys there?
Big time.
Well, I hear there's a podcast called the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast.
I only heard it from you.
Yeah. I'm a major mark for sure. I'm a Patreon subscriber. We've got the Broski himself, the Michael Jordan of wrestling figure collecting, Matt Cardona.
And the Deathmatch King.
We've got the Scottie Pippen of wrestling figure collecting, Mr. Brian Myers, the most professiontional wrestler, and Pineville, West Virginia's own. Baby. Heath is there. So,
or Elvis
I'm
Wesley.
excited about tomorrow.
Pelvis Wesley. Was it Pelvis Wesley?
Who made an appearance tonight? Yeah.
Because so that's the Pelvis Wesley thing started on like the WWE YouTube channel.
So tell the good people about us seeing Pelvis Wesley. So we do our podcast, white knuckle ride to try to make this thing seem as professional. I gotta say, a bunch of hillbillies from West Virginia fucking pulled it off. And then we went and got some food with some good people, and then we came back to not an Impact Wrestling match.
Impact
it was
Provincial
Wrestling.
Pro Wrestling. Yeah.
Pro Wrestling.
JIPW.
And it was just kismet because we walked in. Of course, Matt Mullins and Heath are really good buddies. And Matt Mullins actually is the guy that played Heath's theme music that you will hear on Impact.
Cheap plug.
And we walk in, and Matt, who did we have?
Pelvis Wesley, baby. Oh, baby.
In full
Top form,
Elvis
man.
Vegas get up with hair that
form.
never fell off.
That's right.
And he only got rid of the
It was
scarf.
cinched in there.
Like the scarf, dude. There was like 5 minutes into the match. Like, how's this fucking scarf? Heath is a fucking national treasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a national
He
He
is.
sold a
He's
Dreamer DDT, and he did a headstand.
Oh, it was perfect.
You'll see
It
it.
felt
It's gonna
like
make one of the vlogs.
It's
at
gonna
some
make
point.
We'll put the
vlogs.
picture maybe in there, but I've got it. Man, he held that thing for like 15 seconds.
It
It was like when The Rock sold that stunner, and he was vertical for that
Well, that's
whole
how
time.
serious that DDT was.
You're right.
I mean, if you take a Tommy Dreamer DDT,
Planted
it's
him
lights
feet
out, son.
Yeah, and
I mean,
he
it's
had
staring
no
at
idea where he
lights.
was.
Of course.
He thought he was in Memphis.
He thought he
1977.
was going home to.
Dreamer had some Dusty Rhodes elbows.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
He had some
was
polka
dressed
dots
in the polka
going on.
dots. It was kind of a tribute, show. It was really, a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing.
Yes,
and,
it was. It
fun
was-
way to start the weekend for
We had
sure.
Mickey James and ODB.
Oh man, so
As the
fun.
auto bodies.
Yeah, that was
Auto
great.
bodies,
Great
which is
match.
great.
Yeah, great match. And it's all just getting started. We learned last year there is no such thing as too much professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So we know now that the tolerance is completely high. You're with us. You're watching the House of Kayfabe here on YouTube, and I hope you'll keep watching some of our recap videos here from Wrestlecade. First, the other Steve Barker, and for Matt Mullins, we've got more collecting to do.
Anytime.
We've got more interviews to do, and it's all here at Wrestlecade. So we'll see you soon, right here in the Hotel of Kayfabe.